The city never slept. Its streets were drenched in mist, and the flickering lamps cast shadows that moved like silent predators. In this city of secrets, the poor and the lost had to be sharper than the rich and powerful, and few were as sharp as Elias, a boy no older than 16, who survived not with strength, but with wits. Elias had lived on the streets for as long as he could remember. He knew which alleys were safe, which rooftops offered shelter from the rain, and which shadows hid danger. But tonight, the city felt different. A chill in the fog carried a message, an invisible tension that tightened the air around him. He crouched on a fire escape, eyes narrowed, watching the mansion at the end of the street. It was an old building, elegant but foreboding, with iron gates twisted into thorny shapes and windows that glowed faintly from within. But it wasn't the mansion itself that drew his attention, it was the movement outside. A group of men, tall and masked, dragged someone struggling between them. A young woman, dressed in flowing garments that looked almost ceremonial, tried to resist. Her long hair glinted in the dim light as she fought, but the men were stronger, and they dragged her into the mansion without a single sound reaching the streets. Elias felt a shiver run down his spine. He didn't know her, but he knew enough about the city to understand the stakes. She was someone important, someone dangerous to powerful people, and in his chest, a strange pull of curiosity and fear stirred. For a moment, he hesitated. He was just a boy, barely able to defend himself against ordinary thieves. Yet, the thought of letting her disappear into that mansion, possibly forever, was unbearable. He needed help, and for help, there was only one man who could reach places the law never touched: Lucien, the Mafia boss whose name was whispered in fear and awe throughout the city. Lucien was known for two things: ruthlessness and secrets. He ruled the underworld with a careful hand, and he knew more about the city's supernatural shadows than anyone else. Elias didn't know why he had decided to come here, standing outside Lucien's office in the heart of the dark district. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was something else, something deep he didn't understand. He knocked. A sharp, authoritative voice called from inside. "Who dares disturb me? My name is Elias," he said, keeping his voice steady. "I know something. Something important." The door opened, and Lucien appeared. He was taller than Elias expected, with a presence that made the small room feel heavy. His eyes, dark and calculating, fixed on the boy. "You're a child," Lucien said, "and children don't know anything worth my time." Elias swallowed hard. "I know where they are keeping her." Lucien's eyes narrowed. "Who?" "The girl. The one they took. The one in the mansion on Blackthorn Street." Elias's voice trembled slightly, but he forced himself to continue. "I saw them take her. I can get you inside. I know the way." Lucien didn't answer at once. He studied the boy as if weighing him like a piece of gold. There was bravery in his eyes. Yes, but also recklessness, desperation, and something else. A strange clarity. "Why should I trust you?" Lucien asked finally. "Because if you don't, she'll disappear. And no one else will know where she is," Elias said. "I don't care about rewards. I just don't want her to be lost." Lucien's lips curled into the faintest smirk, a shadow of amusement mixed with intrigue. "Interesting. A homeless boy with courage. Very well. Lead the way, but know this. If you try to deceive me, I will not hesitate to end you." Elias nodded, heart hammering in his chest. The danger was real, but so was the urgency. He led Lucien through twisting alleys and hidden streets, moving silently where no light touched. He pointed out secret passages, loose bricks, and overlooked doors, explaining which guards could be avoided and where shadows would protect them. Lucien followed silently, his presence calm but commanding. Elias noticed the contrast between them. The boy small and tense, the man moving with controlled power. There was an energy in Lucien, a weight of authority that made Elias both afraid and strangely reassured. As they approached the mansion, the mist thickened. Elias paused, glancing back at Lucien. Inside, it's dangerous. They're not just guards. They've used wards. Some kind of magic. I've felt it. It's unnatural. Lucien's expression didn't change. Magic, he said softly, almost as if tasting the word. Then it is more interesting than I thought. They crept closer. The iron gate, twisted like thorned vines, was locked. But Elias had already scouted a narrow side entrance. Lucien made no comment as the boy led him through the shadows, moving with uncanny ease. As they neared the entrance, a sound stopped Elias in his tracks, a whisper, almost too soft to hear, carried on the wind. You cannot save her. Not yet. Elias froze. Lucien noticed, raising an eyebrow. What is it? I don't know, Elias said, shaking. I just felt it. Something is watching. Lucien's eyes darkened. Then we must be careful. Inside the mansion, the air was different, thicker, heavier, as if it absorbed sound and light. The faint glow from enchanted lamps cast shadows that moved like living things. Elias felt a shiver of fear, but also of awe. He had never seen anything like this before. From the upper floors, the muffled sound of someone crying reached them. Elias recognized the voice instantly. It was Seraphine. Her sound was soft, melodic, and full of fear. The boy's heart clenched. Lucien gestured for silence, moving with a predator's grace. Elias followed, trying not to make a sound. The corridors were lined with arcane symbols, glowing faintly, and the boy's skin prickled at their presence. He had never known magic to be so tangible, so close. Then they saw her. Seraphine was in a room with high walls, chained to a pillar. Her eyes widened as she noticed them, a mixture of hope and terror in her gaze. Elias felt an unexpected pang in his chest. She was fragile, yes, but her presence was like a flame in the cold darkness, and he could feel its warmth even from where he stood. Lucien stepped forward, dark eyes assessing the room, noting every detail, every guard, hiding in shadows. He was calm, but Elias could feel the tension emanating from him like heat from a forge. The boy whispered, "We have to be quick. The wards, they'll know we're here soon." Lucien nodded. Then we move now. As Elias and Lucien prepared to act, a sudden movement from above made them both tense. A shadowed figure had been watching them from a balcony, unseen until now. Its presence was deliberate, measured, and filled with silent power. Elias's heart pounded. Whoever this was, they knew more than they should. The figure vanished into the darkness as silently as it appeared, leaving only an ominous impression behind. Elias swallowed, realizing that the danger was far greater than he had imagined. Lucien's hand rested on the hilt of a hidden blade. "They are waiting," he said, voice low. "But we are ready. Lead the way, boy. And remember, failure is not an option." Elias nodded, though fear gripped him like a vice. They moved toward the room where Seraphine was held, shadows stretching and twisting around them, alive with the unspoken tension of the night. And somewhere, deep within the walls of the mansion, a whisper returned. "You cannot save her. Not yet." Elias tightened his grip on the small dagger he carried, feeling its cold steel against his palm. The boy who had once survived only for himself now carried a responsibility heavier than the streets he knew. The hunt had begun, and nothing would ever be the same. Elias froze as the shadowed hand emerged from the wall, its fingers curling like twisted branches. The cold air hummed with power, and the voice that spoke was sharp and unyielding. "Step any further, and you will lose more than your life." Lucien's eyes narrowed. He stepped forward, calm but commanding, his presence like a shield against the unseen threat. "We do not intend to linger. Move aside." The hand hesitated, then vanished, as if it had never existed. The shadow dissipated, leaving only the faint glow of the wards that lined the walls. Elias exhaled, heart pounding, realizing that the mansion was far more dangerous than he had imagined. Inside, the air was thick and silent. Every step they took seemed amplified, echoing through corridors lined with glowing symbols. The wards weren't just decoration, they were alive, pulsing with a light that felt almost conscious. Elias could feel them probing, sensing, testing. Lucien's eyes scanned the room, noting every detail. These wards, they are old, strong, but they are designed for observation, not defense. If we are careful, we can bypass them. Elias nodded, trying to steady his nerves. Follow me. I know which path to take. They moved cautiously, slipping past hidden traps and enchanted sigils. Elias led Lucien through narrow corridors, over staircases that creaked under their weight, and around hidden doors that seemed to appear only when the light caught them just right. Every corner held danger guards, traps, and the magic that filled the walls like living water. Finally, they reached a staircase leading upward. From above, a soft cry reached them. Elias recognized it immediately. It was Seraphine. Her voice carried fear and desperation, but also a quiet resilience. She's there, Elias whispered. Just a little farther. Lucien's hand rested on the hilt of a hidden blade beneath his coat. Good. Keep going, boy. As they ascended, the mansion seemed to shift around them. Walls appeared where there had been none. Corridors twisted unnaturally, and whispers echoed from corners that held no one. Elias's gift flared, a tingling in his chest that warned him of danger. There are more than guards here, he said. Magic. It's protecting her. Lucien's eyes darkened. Then we deal with it. Step carefully. They reached the top floor. The hallway was wide, lined with tall windows that overlooked the foggy city below. At the end, a large door shimmered faintly, the glow of wards surrounding it like a cage. Elias could feel Seraphine's presence beyond it, fragile but strong, trapped in a gilded prison of magic. Lucien stepped forward, examining the door. These wards? They are designed to react to fear and intent. If she feels despair, the walls tighten. If we are reckless, the door itself could harm her. Elias swallowed hard. I can guide us. I can feel the safest path. Lucien nodded once. Do it. The boy concentrated, stepping lightly, feeling the ward's pulse with each breath. Slowly, he led Lucien closer. The door's glow dimmed slightly as they approached, the magic testing their resolve, sensing their hearts. Elias's palms were sweaty, but he kept his focus, imagining Seraphine's safety as a light to guide them. Finally, they reached the door. Elias placed his hand on the glowing surface, feeling a sharp tingle run up his arm. The wards were alive, almost conscious, but they did not resist him. Lucien took the moment to glance at Elias. You are braver than most men twice your age. Remember that courage must be measured, not wasted. Elias swallowed, feeling the weight of the words. I know, I won't fail her. With a quiet hum, the door opened. Inside, Seraphine sat chained to a pillar. Her eyes widened at their arrival. Fear mingled with hope. She was pale, her garments torn at the edges, but there was an unmistakable strength in her gaze. She had not given in to despair, even as the wards and the guards had tried to break her. Lucien stepped inside, scanning the room. The guards were not yet aware of them, hidden in shadowed corners, and the wards hummed faintly, ready to react. Elias moved quickly to Seraphine. I'm here to get you out, he said softly. Stay calm. Seraphine looked at him, eyes flicking between the boy and the man beside him. You're risking everything for me? She asked, her voice trembling. Lucien spoke before Elias could answer. Do not question why. You must leave. Now. Elias worked on the chains binding her, using the small tools he carried. His hands shook, but he focused, feeling the ward's rhythm and matching his movements to it. Slowly, the chains fell away. Seraphine rose, trembling but steadying herself. Thank you, she whispered. glancing at Elias. There was something in her eyes that went beyond gratitude, something that recognized his courage, his heart, even if she did not fully understand it. As they prepared to leave, a sudden movement froze them. From the far corner of the room, the enforcer stepped forward. He was tall, wearing dark robes that seemed to drink the light, and in his hand, a staff pulsed with magical energy. "You think you can steal her from me?" the enforcer hissed, his voice echoing unnaturally. "Foolish children." Lucien stepped forward, his presence dominating the room. "I do not negotiate with shadows. Step aside." The enforcer laughed, a sound like cracking ice. "I do not step aside. I protect what is mine. And your lives are mine to take." Elias felt a surge of fear, but also determination. He had come too far to retreat. "Lucien, what do we do?" Lucien's eyes narrowed. "We fight carefully. Follow my lead. Do not panic." The enforcer raised his staff, sending waves of energy that twisted the air around them. Elias dodged instinctively, feeling the wards respond to their movements. He realized that his gift, his ability to sense danger, was more important than ever. He guided Seraphine behind cover, signaling Lucien where the enforcer's attacks would strike next. Lucien moved like a shadow himself, calm and precise, deflecting blasts with his hidden blade and his mastery of the room. Elias's heart raced as he watched, learning quickly how power could be controlled with patience, not just force. Seraphine, surprisingly, did not hide. Her hands glowed faintly as she reached toward the staff, her own latent power beginning to awaken. The enforcer recoiled, surprised by her strength, but his attacks did not cease. Together, the three of them moved with a strange, silent rhythm. Elias guided, Lucien defended, and Seraphine unleashed bursts of energy that disrupted the enforcer's attacks. The mansion trembled around them, walls groaning, windows cracking, but they pressed forward. Finally, with a coordinated effort, Lucien lunged forward, knocking the staff from the enforcer's hands. Seraphine's energy flared, binding him in magical restraints, and Elias breathed a sigh of relief. Lucien turned to the boy. "You did well," he said quietly. "Do not underestimate yourself again. Courage alone is not enough, but it can open doors that fear keeps closed." Elias nodded, chest still racing, feeling the weight of the night pressing on him. Seraphine looked at him, eyes softening. "You saved me," she whispered. "I don't even know your name." "Elias," he said, his voice small but steady. "Then remember it," she said, almost to herself. "Elias saved me tonight." But as they moved toward the exit, the mansion groaned violently, the air filled with a low hum. The wards were reacting, no longer just observing, but retaliating. Shadows stretched toward them, reaching like living tendrils. Lucien grabbed Elias's shoulder. "Move, quickly." They ran, the floorboards creaking and walls twisting around them. Elias felt fear claw at him, but he focused on the path, Seraphine following closely. They reached the staircase leading down to the side door, and then, from the upper floor, a whisper echoed through the hall. "You think it is over, but the night is not done with you yet." Elias froze, glancing at Lucien and Seraphine. The three of them understood the truth in that whisper. Escaping the mansion was only the beginning. The fog hung heavy over the city as Elias, Lucien, and Seraphine moved through the twisting alleys, far from the mansion that had nearly swallowed them whole. Every step felt measured, each shadow a potential threat. Elias could still feel the mansion's magic clinging to him, a cold reminder that their battle was not yet over. Seraphine walked between the two men, her hands brushing the folds of her dress, as if steadying herself against the tremor of fear and power that still lingered. Her eyes darted constantly, watching the fog and the dim outlines of rooftops, as though she expected something, or someone, to emerge from the darkness at any moment. "You saved me," she whispered to Elias, her voice soft, yet firm. "But I sense there is more danger. Something I cannot see, yet I can feel it around us." Elias nodded. "I know. I felt it in the mansion. Whatever's hunting you, it's not finished yet. Lucien remained silent, walking ahead with his hand resting on the hilt of his blade. His expression was unreadable, but Elias knew that every shadow, every whisper, had registered in his mind. Lucien had seen horrors the boy could not imagine, yet the calm in him was like a shield, protecting them from panic and fear. They reached a small safe house, abandoned long ago but still sturdy enough to hold them for the night. Lucien closed the door behind them, the faint click echoing like a promise of temporary safety. He looked at Seraphine, then at Elias. "The danger is not only outside," Lucien said, his voice low. "Seraphine, your blood carries a curse. I've seen hints of it before, but now it is awakening." Seraphine's eyes widened. "A curse?" she whispered. I've felt it for years, like a shadow I cannot shake. But I didn't know what it truly meant." Lucien nodded. "It is tied to your family, to something powerful hidden in this city. Whoever controls it could command more than armies. They could bend the very city to their will. And others know of it. Dangerous people, both human and not." Elias swallowed hard. "Then they'll come after her again. We have to stay ahead." Lucien studied him for a moment, a shadow of curiosity in his eyes. "You are brave, boy. Most would run, but you face what you cannot even fully understand. Courage is rare, but alone it is not enough. You must learn patience, strategy, and the weight of choice." Elias nodded, though he wasn't sure he fully understood. He only knew he could not let anything happen to Seraphine. That night, they planned. Seraphine revealed more of her story. Her family had always kept her hidden, protected by wards and secret paths, to shield her from those who sought the ancient artifact her bloodline guarded. The artifact was rumored to grant unimaginable power, but it came with a curse. Anyone who wielded it without understanding could be destroyed. Lucien listened carefully, his mind already calculating. He understood the stakes. "Then our goal is clear," he said. "Protect her. Retrieve the artifact if necessary, and survive the night. We are outnumbered, but we are not powerless." Elias, feeling the first stirrings of determination mixed with fear, nodded. "I can track them, sense when they come. My gift. It will help." Seraphine placed a hand on his shoulder. "You've already helped more than you realize, Elias. Your courage brought us here, but I sense your heart is weighed with doubt. Trust in yourself. You are stronger than you know." The boy flushed but stayed silent, absorbing her words. For the first time, he felt that perhaps he had a purpose beyond mere survival. As dawn broke, they left the safe house, moving through narrow alleys and over rooftops to avoid detection. Elias felt the stirrings of his gift intensify. He could sense danger before it arrived, like ripples in water, warning him of footsteps, of traps, of shadows that moved too deliberately. They were not alone for long. From a distance, figures emerged, agents of the rival factions who had been hunting Seraphine for her bloodline. Dressed in dark garments, their movements precise and coordinated, they converged on the trio. Lucien stepped forward without hesitation. "Do not fear," he said quietly. "They are many, but they underestimate us." The first attack came swiftly. A magical bolt streaked from the shadows, striking a wall inches from Elias. He dove to the side, signaling Seraphine to move. She raised her hands instinctively, a faint glow forming around her fingers, deflecting the next assault. Lucien's movements were fluid and deadly, disarming attackers before they could strike a second blow. Elias watched, learning instinctively how courage, skill, and timing could work together in perfect harmony. But the enemy adapted quickly. They sent waves of attacks, mixing magic and steel, forcing the trio to retreat. Elias guided them through secret passages and hidden alleys, using the city's geography as an advantage. He felt alive in the chaos, every sense sharpened by fear and adrenaline. Amid the struggle, Seraphine's powers began to awaken fully. Her energy flared unpredictably, shattering walls, creating barriers, and illuminating the darkness. She was no longer merely a victim. She became a force to be reckoned with. Lucien glanced at Elias. Do you see what I mean? Power is not only strength, it is control, understanding, and purpose. You have courage. Now, you must learn control. Elias nodded, feeling the truth in Lucien's words. Every step, every decision could be the difference between life and death. He began to sense patterns in the attacks, guiding Seraphine and Lucien with precision. After hours of pursuit, they reached an abandoned cathedral, its spire broken and walls blackened by age. The place was quiet. Yet Elias felt the presence of something immense, an echo of the artifact's magic that resonated with Seraphine's blood. This is it, Seraphine said softly. The artifact is somewhere within. I can feel it. But so can they. We are walking into a trap. Lucien's expression remained calm, but his eyes hardened. Then we must be ready. Courage brought you here, Elias. But now, wisdom will guide us. Inside the cathedral, shadows stretched unnaturally, moving almost like living creatures. The air thrummed with power, and the faint glow of the artifact pulsed from the altar at the far end. Seraphine's breath caught as she approached, her fingers tracing the air above the glowing object. Suddenly, a surge of energy erupted. Rival agents appeared from the darkness, joined by creatures of shadow, their forms twisted and strange. Elias felt fear clawing at his chest, but he forced himself to focus. He guided Seraphine behind cover, signaling to Lucien where the attacks would strike next. Seraphine raised her hands, energy spilling forth in controlled waves that pushed back the shadow creatures. Lucien moved like a shadow himself, precise and deadly, disarming enemies and protecting them. Elias realized that together, they formed a strange balance. His foresight, her power, and Lucien's skill. For a moment, the trio worked in perfect harmony, turning back wave after wave of attackers. Elias felt a surge of pride, not for himself, but for the bond that had formed between them. But the moment was brief. A sudden, massive shadow emerged from the cathedral's roof, a creature larger than any they had faced. Its eyes glowed with a cruel light, and it spoke without moving its mouth. You trespass, little guardians. The artifact belongs to those who understand its weight. Elias's heart pounded. He could feel the danger radiating from the creature, a presence that made the shadows themselves tremble. Seraphine's hands glowed brighter, her energy instinctively pushing back. But even she faltered under its gaze. Lucien stepped forward, placing himself between the creature and the others. You will not touch her, he said, voice low and firm. We will leave with her, and you will do nothing. The creature laughed, a sound that reverberated through the cathedral like rolling thunder. Then you shall see what it means to defy destiny. End quote. The shadows surged, and Elias realized that escaping this battle would require more than courage. It would demand sacrifice, trust, and a bond stronger than fear. He glanced at Seraphine, and in that moment, he understood the depth of their connection. They were no longer just boy and girl. Savior and victim, they were allies, linked by purpose, courage, and the unknown path that lay ahead. The cathedral trembled beneath the weight of the enormous shadow. Its eyes glowed like molten gold, and its voice echoed across the walls, with a power that made the ground shake. Elias's heart pounded, yet he stood firm, sensing the urgency in every tremor of the air. Seraphine's hands glowed with energy, brighter than ever before. The artifact on the altar pulsed in response to her presence, as if recognizing her as its rightful guardian. Her breath was steady, though her eyes betrayed a mix of fear and determination. She was no longer just a captive, she was a force, awakened at last. Lucien stepped beside Elias, his hand on the hilt of his blade, his gaze fixed on the shadow. Courage brought us here, boy. Now wisdom and unity will see us through. Trust in her, and trust in yourself. Elias nodded. He could feel the pulse of the cathedral, the rhythm of danger intertwined with Seraphine's awakening power. His gift, The ability to sense danger and see patterns others could not, was at its peak. Every movement of the shadow, every ripple of magic, was clear to him. The shadow moved first, lunging with terrible speed. Its form seemed to bend reality, reaching toward Seraphine as if to consume her very essence. Elias reacted instinctively, signaling her to shift left, guiding Lucien to intercept. Seraphine's energy flared, a shield of light forming between them and the creature. "Hold steady," Lucien shouted, parrying a strike with his blade, the metal singing as it collided with the shadow's form. The force sent vibrations through the floor, and dust rained down from the cathedral's cracked ceiling. Elias's mind raced. He saw the patterns in the shadow's attacks. Its movements were powerful, but predictable if timed correctly. He whispered instructions to Seraphine, and she responded instinctively, her shield weaving through the assault with precision. Lucien's strikes landed with deadly accuracy, keeping the shadow off balance. But the creature was immense, and its power unmatched. It roared, a sound that shook their bones, and the artifact pulsed violently. Elias realized that the artifact itself was linked to the shadow, feeding its strength as much as it fed Seraphine's. If they did not act carefully, all would be lost. Seraphine's energy began to swirl around her, a storm of light and power that lit the cathedral in a blinding glow. Her voice rang out, chanting words she did not understand but felt in her soul. The shadow recoiled, sensing the surge of strength, but it did not retreat. "You cannot defeat me," it hissed, its voice like grinding stone. "The curse chooses who will fall." Elias stepped forward, feeling a sudden connection to the artifact. He could see its pattern, the flow of its energy. "Seraphine," he shouted, "focus on the center. Bind the shadow with its own power." She understood. Raising her hands, she drew the artifact's energy into herself, merging it with her own. Light surged outward, forming a cage of radiant energy around the shadow. It struggled, thrashing, but the bond between her and the artifact held firm. Lucien moved in, using the distraction to strike at the shadow's core. His blade met resistance, but each strike weakened its form. Elias guided him, shouting directions, their combined efforts forming a perfect harmony of instinct and strategy. The shadow let out a final, ear-splitting roar, then froze. Its form flickered, unstable now, caught between the power of the artifact and Seraphine's control. The cathedral quaked violently, stones falling from the ceiling, but Seraphine held fast, her arms trembling, her focus unbroken. Elias reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You can do it. I believe in you." Seraphine's eyes met his, and in that moment, she drew a deep, steadying breath. The light surged brighter, enveloping the shadow completely. There was a blinding flash, and when it faded, the shadow was gone. The cathedral was silent, save for the echo of their breathing and the faint hum of the artifact. Elias sank to his knees, exhausted but alive. Lucien stood beside him, his blade still in hand, surveying the room. "It is done," he said quietly. "The curse is broken. For now. But remember, power always leaves traces, and darkness never truly vanishes." Seraphine collapsed to the floor, her energy spent. But she smiled faintly at Elias. "We did it," she whispered. I'm free." Elias shook his head. "No, we did it together. None of us could have survived alone." Lucien nodded, sheathing his blade. "True. Strength comes not from power alone, but from unity, courage, and trust. You have all proven that tonight." For a moment, the three of them sat in the quiet aftermath, the cathedral still trembling slightly, as if adjusting to the absence of the shadow. Elias glanced at Seraphine, seeing her in a new light, not as a girl in need of protection, but as someone powerful, determined, and wise beyond her years. She looked at him, her eyes softening. "Elias, I don't know how to thank you. You were brave when all seemed lost. You believed in me. He smiled faintly, feeling warmth in his chest he had never known. It was easy to believe in you, he said simply. You never gave up. Even when the darkness tried to take everything. Lucien stepped closer, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. This night has changed us all. Elias, you have grown from a boy surviving the streets into a man capable of guiding others. Seraphine, your power has awakened fully, and with it comes responsibility. Remember that courage and wisdom must always walk together. The three of them left the cathedral together, stepping into the first rays of dawn that broke through the city's ever-present fog. The streets seemed less threatening now. The shadows less menacing. The air felt lighter, though the city still held secrets and dangers, as it always had. Elias looked at Seraphine. Where will you go now? He asked. She smiled softly. I will stay with you for now. We have survived together, and that bond cannot be broken by distance. There is much to rebuild, and I need your guidance, Elias. You have taught me more than you know. Lucien observed them quietly. Then perhaps my work here is done, he said. I will remain a guardian in the shadows. But the two of you, you must walk your own path. The city will challenge you. Yes, but you are ready. Elias nodded, understanding the truth in Lucien's words. The streets that had once been his prison were now his home, his ally, and his teacher. He felt a surge of confidence, tempered by humility, knowing that the challenges ahead would require all he had learned. Seraphine took his hand gently. We face the future together, she said. No more fear. No more running. Only trust. The boy who had once wandered the streets alone felt something he had never experienced: hope. And he knew that with Seraphine and Lucien by his side, he could face anything. But as they moved through the quiet streets, a shadow flickered across the rooftops. Elias felt it first, a subtle chill in the air. A warning that their victory, though hard-won, was not absolute. The city still held dangers, and the artifact's power still whispered in the corners of the world. Lucien paused, his eyes scanning the horizon. The night is never truly gone, he said softly. But you have survived it. That is what matters. Elias looked at Seraphine, squeezing her hand. Then we face whatever comes next. Together. Seraphine nodded, her gaze strong and unwavering. Together, she repeated. The sun rose fully, illuminating the city in golden light. The fog lifted slightly, revealing streets that had once seemed endless and threatening. And for the first time, Elias felt that the shadows, though still present, were no longer his enemy. They were a challenge he was ready to meet, armed with courage, loyalty, and the bond he shared with Seraphine and Lucien. The three of them walked forward, their steps echoing in harmony, ready to face the unknown. The city held mysteries, darkness, and danger, but also hope, strength, and redemption. And in that fragile balance, a new story was beginning, one where courage, love, and trust would guide them through the shadows.